Hey there, listeners. I'm Tom.
And I'm James, and you're listening to World on a String.
Hey, James.
Hi, Tom. How's it going?
This is like episode 5 of
Yeah,
our podcast.
5. We've been doing this over a month now.
Wow,
It,
that's pretty crazy.
it's a long time. It's been ages.
I just want to say quickly, kind of before we start,
Yeah.
that you can now find World on a String on Radio Free Public and Stitcher for those people who don't use Apple. I did actually tweet earlier this week that we're available on Google. That was not correct. We're not available on Google Podcasts because that app doesn't work in the UK yet.
Oh.
So I don't think we're on it. As soon as that becomes available in the UK, I'll be applying to get us on there, which should go fine because we're on enough other places that they'll be like, yeah, sure. But yeah, we're not on Google yet.
Okay.
And I'm currently waiting to hear back from Spotify and from TuneIn
Oh, it's getting...
for us to be on there as well.
Holy crap. As if we're getting all these places.
Oh, yeah?
No,
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. We're on a lot of places. I'd also like to mention, and I'll tweet about it when this episode goes up, I'd like to ask people to review us both on iTunes and also on podchaser.com, which is a new website just recently founded, which acts as a sort of IMDb for podcasts where you can review individual episodes. And I think currently it's the only service that allows you to review individual episodes of podcasts. And so, because that's quite new, if people will review us on there, then we'll get onto their like kind of front page of their website, because it's not got a whole bunch of users yet, which will help people to find this podcast, which obviously is good for us.
Yeah, holy crap. It also helps us because if you just review the podcast like you do on iTunes, we don't know what we're doing well. We don't know what you want to see.
Yeah.
Episodes are good to review.
That's true. You can also message us on Twitter or on Facebook.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear anyone's thoughts, what we're doing well, what we're doing not so well. Any recommendations for anything, we're happy to accept those.
Yeah. Yeah. Holy crap, Tom, you're doing some amazing work behind the scenes. I'm not shocked, but I am shocked. It's amazing. Well done, buddy.
Pretty much every time a service gets mentioned on r/podcasts or r/podcasting, I'm like, well, how do I get World on a String on there?
Oh man, wow, holy crap, that's really cool. How's your week been? You went to Basingstoke? Did you have a good time?
I did go to Basingstoke.
I saw
now, Basingstoke
Snapchat.
is a 4.5-hour drive.
Oh.
Right, from where I live. Okay. And in March, this is quite a while ago.
Yeah.
It was snowy in March, and where I am at uni, we had a red weather warning for the snow, which means danger of death. So as you do when there's a danger of death warning, we all went out sledging. Only we're uni students. We don't have sledges. We were using printer boxes.
Oh.
To sledge on because they're glossy, so you get some speed up. And I was sledging down a hill on a printer box, and a tree appeared in front of me. And I tried to turn, but because I didn't have any traction on the snow, I was just on a printer box. Instead of moving round the tree, I just rotated in place, and so slammed side on into this tree, and it hit me just above the knee. The tree really hurt. I had a huge bruise. I struggled to walk for a few days, and my knee was kind of clicking. I was like, oh, this isn't great. But then it got better, and I was like, okay, fine. And then I was getting the train home from uni at Easter.
Yeah.
And that's a long train journey. It's like 5 hours on the train. And I got off the train, and I was like, wow, my knee's pretty stiff. But again, it got better pretty quickly, and I was like, okay, well, that's fine. Never mind. And then this journey to Basingstoke, I got out of the car at Basingstoke, and I guess to do with the position of my leg is slightly more up and active in the car than it would be in the train.
Yeah.
And also with me doing gears, I'm actually moving my knee using the clutch. I got out of the car at Basingstoke, it was really quite stiff, and then the next morning it was a bit swollen, and I was like, oh, that's not great, but hey ho, I had a party to do, I had alcohol to drink, so I seshed the pain away. And then I had to drive back. And so when I woke up the Sunday morning, the day I had to drive back, it was really quite swollen. But I was like, oh
Gee.
well, never mind. I'm sure I'll be fine. And I got in the car and I drove back, and yeah, it really hurt. And I was actually coming off the motorway and driving kind of back through the town again to get home.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gear changes. Obviously, there's not a
Yeah.
lot on the motorway, but there's a lot when you're off the motorway. I was actually screaming every time I had to
Oh.
change gear. I'd put some music on to kind of keep me alert, so I'd be singing along and then just be like, ah! Oh, that is a big audio spike. Holy shit. Okay, enjoy that one. Rip headphone users. Yeah, you're going to have to do something about that, James. That'll kill people.
I will try to.
Um, but yeah, I was screaming in pain as I drove along.
Jeez.
And then the next day it was really quite large. So I went to see the doctor, and he said that I had just like a crazy amount of fluid in my knee.
What kind of fluid?
So
What
I don't know, like knee fluid, I guess.
knee
It's like
fluid?
lubricant. I think it's like lubricant for when something's a bit out of place that it doesn't grate. It's a natural thing that
Yeah.
happens, but there's just a lot. So he said to take 3 ibuprofen a day for like 2 weeks. If it's not gone down, go see him. So I've basically I had a bunch of hours of work booked this week at the place I was talking about last week,
Yeah.
but I've had to cancel them because the doctor said I shouldn't really be on my feet for that long, and it was waitering, so I wouldn't have been sitting down at all. Um, so I have to cancel my work this week. So I've just been sat at home with the flipping ice pack on, like with it up, doing nothing. It's been really boring.
Jeez.
But it's going down now. I've been taking my ibuprofen, and it's not as swollen as it was. And I've got a lot more movement available. So hopefully by the end of this week, I'll be fine. I'll be able to
You'll
work
be up and
next
playing
week.
tennis and running around.
Yeah, I certainly hope so.
Holy shit. What an exciting story. I'm glad you had fun in
Yeah,
Basingstoke though. Interesting news. I'm not
go
gonna
on.
be here next week. I'm going to
You're not going to be
be
here next week?
I am going to be here, but I'm gonna be in a different country. Oh,
Oh,
holy shit. I'm going down to Wales.
you're not going like abroad. You're going
No,
like
no, no,
there. That's
no,
pretty
no.
cool though.
We're going to Wales.
I like
I
Wales.
will record in Wales. I will
Okay, that's cool.
edit in Wales. And then I'll come back and we'll do one here. But it's our first podcast in a completely different country.
Yeah, that's quite exciting.
What an exciting time to be alive.
So I've got a question for you this week, James.
Yep.
It's not like a hypothetical one, like the ones were before. It's just a question. We're making a podcast.
Yeah.
People listening to us,
Yeah.
therefore, would possibly like to listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
What podcasts do you listen to?
Oh God. I don't listen to any podcasts. I do listen to
None at
some.
all.
I listen to Triforce.
Okay, yeah, I listened to that
I
one.
listen to Triforce. I tried listening to
What's the
oh
Triforce
God,
podcast?
the Triforce podcast. It's a
Yeah.
podcast by the Ogscast featuring Lewis, and Chris Lovers and Ted Forsyth. Wow, I remembered all the names. Also known
Well
as
done,
Sips Pyrian and
Lewis.
Lewis. I was gonna say Zephyrs. But they just chat shit, don't they? Really? They just talk about. They're supposed to talk about video games and stuff, but they don't actually anymore. Um,
Yeah, it's three video game YouTubers and streamers they're just friends and they just chat. Yeah, we both listened to that one.
yeah.
Any
I
others?
tried listening to In the Night Vale. Is that what it's called? But I didn't.
Oh, Welcome to Night
Welcome to
Vale.
Night Vale. I didn't like it. I gave up with that one. But yeah, that's it. I kind of, if I see a podcast on YouTube, like I've kind of watched some of the H3 podcasts and the co-optional podcasts and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But just because I've kind of seen someone that I want to hear talk on it,
Yeah,
not because I'm a regular listener.
I'm not a massive lover of that kind of interview style podcast.
Really?
No, I prefer kind of format shows.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've got two, four, six. I've got 8 on my phone currently, although one of them is this one. So I've got 7 on my phone currently.
Yeah.
I've got the History of English podcast, which is just one guy talking about how English kind of evolved and changes over time, and that one's quite interesting. I'm on episode 3 of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Welcome to Night Vale, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, which is it's fictional. It's kind of it's radio broadcasts from a fictional radio in a fiction
Yeah.
radio station in a fictional town, which is it's a very supernatural town. Um, I like that. I think it's very funny. It's
Hmm.
a kind of very dry, very surreal humor.
Hmm.
So I like listening to that. And then I listen to the Triforce podcast also,
Yep.
same as you. I listen to a podcast called Dilettante Ball, which is two guys click a random article on Wikipedia every week
Really?
and just talk about it, and then just kind of talk about their discussion. Just kind of goes on from there. That's pretty cool. They're only like 20-minute episodes. That's pretty funny. And then my other three are all kind of RPG based
Yeah.
podcasts. So the one that I started, kind of my first podcast that was about role playing games, was the Campaign podcast, which is probably the
Hmm.
best podcast I've ever listened to. It gets a big recommendation, a big thumbs up.
Ooh.
The Campaign podcast is a long form actual play in the Star Wars Edge of the Empire system. So it's a group of four people, three players and a DM,
Hmm.
playing Star Wars D&D essentially. Only the people are all professional improvisers, like improv comedians. So it's really funny. There's some incredible storytelling in it. That's great. Gets a big recommendation.
Yeah. I
And then one of the guys on that is one of the two people on Dilettante Ball. So that's how I heard about that.
uh
And then one of the other guys on that runs the One Shot Network, where they every month they do a couple of episodes in a new different role playing game system. So it's like they do little short adventures in loads of different role playing systems, and that's really cool, really
yeah.
interesting one to listen to. And then I listened to I just started today listening to a podcast called Neo Scum, which is similar to Campaign but in a different system. It's not Star Wars. It's a system called Shadowrun.
Hmm.
And then I also listened to Never Tell Me the Pods, which is Star Wars discussion.
God, you're all about Star Wars now.
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Do you want to know a fun fact about Star Wars?
Yes.
I'm finally going to go see Solo on
Oh, are you?
Saturday after
Yes,
a
it's so good,
long
James.
time.
It's so good.
Okay, holy shit. Um, Other than supremely damaging your knee and
Yeah,
getting absolutely sashed in Basingstoke, did you
yeah.
have time to listen to the album and watch the film,
Oh
Tom?
yeah, oh yeah.
Should
I
we...
mean, I've just finished watching the film this morning.
Oh, I watched it this morning also.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
And yeah, I listened to the album.
well,
Should we move on to
yeah,
talking
let's
about it
start with
now?
the album.
Let's start with the album.
So
That's the way
this,
we do it. I'm just gonna blow my nose. Hold on. Let's move on to talking about the album.
so the album was Cannonball Takes Charge by Cannonball Adderley. There's just a few things I want to say about the album before we start. I think
Go on.
with jazz albums, it is important to know the lineup of musicians that are playing. The lineup for this particular one changes. So tracks 1 to 4, you've got Cannonball on alto sax, you've got Wynton Kelly on piano, bass is Paul Chambers and drums is Jimmy Cobb. And then 5 to 9 it changes. The bass is then Percy Heath and the drums Albert Heath. The 1 to 4 lineup is possibly the best set of jazz musicians you can have in 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 that kind of scenario. Like Cannonball is the most famous alto sax player. Wynton Kelly is one of the most famous pianists. And then the bass and drums players that played with Miles and stuff. So this lineup isn't, I think the point I'm trying to get across is this lineup isn't just a bunch of random people that wanted to play with Cannonball. These are all like top of the range um, jazz musicians. They know exactly what they're doing at all times. I just wanted to get that out there, I think.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, it's quite a big album, I think, which I didn't quite realize because I didn't know the lineup of this album before we started listening. The first tune is "If This Isn't Love."
It was. Was the first tune. I actually. Do you know what, James?
What?
I really enjoyed it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what did
I
you like?
think I liked the kind of tight little quartet feel
Mm,
to it. I've written the saxophone is killing it. Like it was very impressive playing.
yeah,
I could tell he's obviously pretty good.
yeah, yeah.
um, I also thought I liked how kind of relatively simple it was in a way. Not technically simple, because obviously I think it was probably quite technically difficult,
Yeah,
but simple sounding. Like it
yeah,
was just you just had your saxophone going, your piano just kind of going away in the background, and then your kit and your bass just accompanying it. There wasn't too much going on.
yeah,
Um, and then sometimes it switched that the piano was taking charge and the saxophone was like was the and the saxophone was accompanying.
yeah,
Um, I liked that. I liked it kept moving. It didn't just repeat. I think sometimes in jazz, because it's impro, you can
yeah,
fall into a danger of just kind of repeating the same motif over and over
yeah,
again and not really going anywhere with it.
yeah,
But this, I didn't feel there was much repetition in this. Yeah, I did really really quite like it, and I think that the I don't know, as somebody who enjoys jazz and studies jazz, what would you say the main differences are between this
hmm
album? I guess we could talk about this at the end, but I'm going to ask you the question now so you can think about it while we're
yeah,
talking. The main differences between this album and the Herbie Hancock
yeah.
album,
The Headhunters album.
because I didn't enjoy Headhunters as much,
As
but this
this
I
one.
did. But obviously they're both this I did quite like actively. I enjoyed it.
Holy crap.
So I'd like to know, technically speaking, what are the
Oh
differences between
God.
the two, so that I could try and almost pinpoint
What you
what
like
aspects
about it.
of jazz I
Yeah.
like, because then
Yeah.
I can kind of try and find more jazz that I'm into, and then maybe one day I'll recommend a jazz album.
Holy crap.
Wouldn't
That's
that be
just gonna
crazy?
blow everyone's mind.
But
Yeah,
that's just just something to I'm gonna we'll revisit it
we'll come back
at
to
the
that at the
end. But
end.
yeah, I did enjoy it. What if this isn't love? What did you think?
Yeah, I feel awful now because this is my least favorite one of the whole album. So the way the tunes in this album, they're all set out, it's you've got the head or the main melody, which is the tune that people know, and then you'll have a sax solo, you'll have a key solo, and then sometimes you'll trade eights or trade fours with bass or drums, and that's the way this tune's set up. Um, so the way I was looking at it was the opening melody. There was a good interplay between the sax and the bass and the piano. I really enjoyed that. I thought the start of Cannonball's sax solo was
Ah,
was was pretty stunning, and then the end. He always does this with his solos. He always kind of does like a blues kind of ending. Like he uses kind of blues scales and stuff, which I also quite like.
yeah. I noticed some scale
Yeah.
stuff. Like there's a lot of runs, and some of them were really quite fast. And
Oh yeah.
but yeah, it was a lot of kind of going up and down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think you're right. It was good. I guess I'll hang my tears out to dry.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean the one of the things that I've got kind of I don't know so much if it is just this song or just this album or something that I've noticed far more.
Yeah.
I enjoy music and I enjoy listening to songs
hmm
because I find songs often more emotionally charged than just pieces of music. Because they've got the lyrics and it's easier for the artist to put the emotion into it because they could just talk about what it is the song is supposed to represent.
Yeah.
Whereas with music, you've got to kind of feel it,
Yeah, yeah.
and often it's difficult to interpret the feeling that the artist put into the song.
hmm
But with this, I thought I don't know if it was just the titles making it quite clear,
Yeah.
or what, but I really did get for a lot of the songs I did get that kind of feel, and I got the emotion out of it, and I could almost picture it scoring a movie scene or something like that.
Yeah.
For a few of the songs, I did like this one. I guess I'll hang my tears out to dry. It was definitely even the saxophone itself. I don't
mhm.
know if he was playing. I assume he was playing the same
Yeah.
saxophone, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
exact same one,
Yeah.
but it sounded a lot more melancholy and it sounded more sad than it did in the first one and in some of the others.
Yeah.
Like it's piano intro also obviously set the. It's quite easy to do sad on a piano.
Yeah.
Musically, sad is probably one of the easiest emotions to represent.
hmm
But you got it coming in with the intro, and then the saxophone sounded. It did sound bittersweet in a way, or sorrowful.
Holy crap. I'm really impressed, Tom. Holy shit. A lot of the tunes on this album are what uh musicians call standards. So they're kind of like the tunes that every jazz musician should know, really. And a lot of them come from songs and like Gershwin and stuff, and this is no exception. I guess I'll hang my tears out to dry. It is a sad song, and I think you're right. I think that Cannonball does manage to play it as if the sax were a voice, if you know what I mean.
Haha.
Like he manages to put the emotion into it. Um, I've completely forgotten what I was going to say, but yeah. So they're all of these, a lot of these tunes are songs. So I think a lot of them. I think if I play, I guess I'll hang my tears out dry. I know some of the words, so I'll kind of sing some of the words in my head as
So it
I'm.
has got actual words.
Yeah. A lot of
Huh.
them do.
Huh.
Um, but yeah, it was nice, and I liked how sad it felt. I quite like sad ones. Did you notice? It's a bit of a technical question, but after the main melody was played, they moved into the solos. It switched to like a double time feel, which was really cool.
I
Um,
didn't notice.
no, that's cool. Yeah, I like that. I thought that was good, and I liked the ending because the last chord was like a major seven sharp 11 or something, and
Cool.
that's like a niche, like a stereotype. Anyway,
I
Serenata.
also
Oh,
got
go
in
on.
that one that I just wrote it under that one, but it does kind of apply to the whole thing.
Hmm.
But even though it was just the kind of quartet of them,
Yeah.
it always sounded very full. It never sounded like there was any
Hmm.
instrument just kind of out on its own,
Yeah.
or necessarily leading in a way. It did
Yeah.
sound like they were playing as a group and that they were all supporting each
Yeah.
other. And I was impressed by how evenly the melodies got divided between the piano
Mhm.
and the sax. Like
Yeah.
they both shared it quite evenly. It wasn't just like
The
we've
sax
got
is.
Cannonball on the sax, so it's just going to be sax the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. It just shows how skillful they are as musicians, I think,
Yeah.
which is really cool. Um, Serenata.
Serenata. I got Monsters Inc. vibes from this one.
Did you?
Yeah,
I really
I
liked
really
it.
enjoyed it.
I really like this one. It's a standard I've not heard before, but Nat King Cole has sung it. Um, I think you know Nat King Cole.
I am familiar with him. I
There you
might
go.
try and find him listening to this because I did.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed it a lot actually.
Yeah. This was the middle of the pack. It was good. There's no complaints. The solo was good. The choice of standard was good. The speed was good, and he plays the head and the melody so nicely. It's just great.
So when you say like the choice of standard,
Yeah.
so these aren't pieces of music. Excuse me. These aren't pieces of music that Cannonball has written. These are his
No.
performances of established pieces of jazz culture in a way.
Yeah, kind
Is
of.
that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So a standard, it's like summertime.
Yeah.
That's a standard
So
because
when you said in the first episode that your favorite piece of music was "Summertime" by George Gershwin,
that I would specify that my favorite version of that was Chet Baker's version of Summertime by George Gershwin,
right?
if that makes sense.
Ah,
So they're
okay,
all pieces that have basically they've got kind of like a 32 or a 64 bar melody or whatever, and
right.
then with the chords on top, and then they just play
You
that.
can put your own spin
Yeah,
on how
yeah,
you get to that melody and
yeah,
how everything
exactly.
else turns around that melody. Right, that is
Yeah,
pretty cool.
it's so they're just covers really, but they're done
Yeah,
in a much more free way,
yeah.
if that makes sense.
You can see why jazz is kind of almost thought of as music for musicians.
Yeah. I think I agree with that because a lot of the time the pianist would voice chords in a different way or change the chords like reharmonize it so it has different chords underneath. So, but you wouldn't notice if you weren't kind of fully immersed in the culture, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that summed it up. I think we've got standards on the head. Um,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
yeah, we'll come across more standards, I'm sure, the more we do this podcast because I love standards. Um, but this isn't to say that all jazz is just standards.
No, because I know that a lot of jazz is kind of improv.
Yeah, and then pieces are yeah. Like
So who
Cannonball has
wrote?
written
I
loads
mean,
of
I don't know
pieces.
if you'll know this. I don't know but who wrote Serenata then? That standard.
Yeah,
Who
I've
wrote it?
got no clue.
I'm gonna Google it. Hold
I'm
on.
just Googling it now.
Sarah Vaughan.
Leroy Anderson. And then the lyrics were
Okay.
written by Mitchell Parish.
I haven't heard of either of those people.
Well, no, it was written in 1949, so it's kind of like they're almost war songs, effectively. The writers are never known. Like you have to be a very good writer and have quite a few standout standards to be known.
To be known.
Yeah, but of course,
Yeah.
Cannonball and Nat King Cole and Sarah Vaughan, these are all people that are known for singing other people's standards.
Chet Baker's done it.
Yeah, Chet Baker is wow, he's amazing. I love Chet. Ooh,
Huh. First recorded in 1949. Holy moly.
yeah, Summertime's
That's
older than that, I think.
that's pretty cool.
It's mad. Anyway,
Okay. I've told every little star.
yeah, it's just good. I
I
enjoyed.
liked. I really liked this one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, this is making me happy. I'm
I
glad you
think
enjoyed
this
it.
was my favourite.
Really?
I've written that I loved the intro, and that it gave me it very much put me in mind of a scene in a musical, like a quite a camp musical, something like West Side Story, something
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
where the main characters just kind of kissed the love interest for the first time, or they've just danced
yeah,
together for the first time, and it's him just singing about how like happy he is. And
yeah,
I can imagine him like swinging on like the old fire escapes on those like tall New York apartments, like where the ladders like slide down,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like swinging along those and stuff like that. That was kind of the images that I was getting in my head.
yeah.
Kind of very West Side Story image in a way.
Oh my God.
That was what I was picturing. It was just really hopeful and quite jolly. Um,
Yeah,
and then there was a bit where there was a piano solo
yeah,
kind of in the middle. And I was like, and so this is the dance interlude. The saxophone was him singing,
yeah.
and now the piano solo is like the dance interlude where he's dancing with all the like random people.
Oh my God. You
I very much got that kind of feel from it.
I think you're right because I've just Googled it and it was written by Jerome Kern, who has written a lot of classic standards, and the lyrics were written by Hammerstein, Oscar Hammerstein. So I think it could be a musical. Oh,
Huh.
wow. Oh, that's great.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad. Yeah, nice. Barefoot Sunday Blues.
Oh, this was really chill.
Yeah, it was just a blues really. It's hard to make a blues interesting, but Cannonball did a good job.
Yeah, I think he did as well. One thing that I've written down on this one is, were there two pianos being played?
No, just one.
Huh.
What makes you think there were two?
I don't know. I just remember like there was a bit where there was like it sounded like there was just two different. There was like a melody going
Yeah,
and an accompaniment to that, but then also another melody and accompaniment to that. They just didn't sound like they would be doing played by the same person at the same
yeah.
time, but evidently they are.
Wynton Kelly is an outstanding pianist. If you look at
Yeah,
some
it's
of
very
his
impressive.
transcriptions online, it blows my mind. Um, yeah, there were some nice breaks where kind of you've got a hit from the drums and then everyone cuts out and then Cannonball goes off on one. Cannonball did some
Yeah,
really, really nice breaks in there, really tasteful lines.
I got that. The sax sounded very lyrical
Hmm.
again.
Yeah,
Um, this is the first one really where I found the bass prominent.
yeah.
It had a lot more kind of almost to do.
Well, it had a solo as well.
Yeah,
But I said Wynton Kelly, he manages to because it's hard with the bass solo because it's below everything. Everyone has to drop
yeah.
back and kind of really quietly comp. But Wynton Kelly does really really well, um,
Hmm.
and really makes it nice and easy for the bass player to stand out.
It did though, James.
Oh, it
Unfortunately,
did, yeah. I
it had a
saw, I
fade
know.
ending.
It did fade out. Oh, oh, is that
But
your
I
least
can
favorite?
forgive them one. I can forgive them one fade out.
Was it?
I'm enjoying it enough that I'll be lenient.
Oh, holy shit! This is a new side of Tom. I'm enjoying it. Poor butterfly.
Yeah. So these last two, I was slightly less keen on. They just what I've got for Poor Butterfly is it was kind of more normal.
Yeah.
Like it had less of a specific vibe or a specific feel to it than the
Hmm.
others, where I very much got quite vivid pictures in my heads. This one I
Yeah.
didn't so much. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. There was a bit where every other instrument stopped and the sax just kind of ran down a scale.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think this was the first Cannonball tune I ever heard, Poor Butterfly.
uh huh,
I'd heard the tune itself as a big band piece, so like with like loads of saxophones and trumpets and trombones. I heard it as a big band piece before.
right,
So I like this one a lot. I think Cannonball's solo is absolutely cracking. It's I couldn't play it better. Not that I could play any solo better than Cannonball, but there's nothing I could say to improve it, even looking at it like theoretically. Um, and I think I've got lovely break from Cannonball here, and the piano solo was nice and short. It was kind of like half the length of Cannonball's, which led into the head for the last time nicely.
right.
And
I
then
liked the ending.
yeah, the ending was good.
I don't have anything quite as technical to say, but yeah,
Yeah,
I liked the ending.
I remember
So
you.
that one I
Oh,
enjoyed, but it didn't stand out to me specifically.
yeah, yeah. I can see why. To be fair, I remember you.
Yeah, this one I wrote that it's similar to Poor Butterfly, and I wrote that I'm struggling to write anything about it.
Yeah,
There didn't seem to be as much to talk. Like some of the stuff written on earlier songs applied to this. Like some of them were album wide. So I didn't have as much to write about this one. I've said that it seems a little almost generic,
yeah,
but generic's not the word I'm looking for. Just it didn't. It was still very, I'm sure, very technically impressive, and it was still pleasant to listen to.
hmm
It just didn't do anything specifically for me to be like, oh wow, that was really cool.
yeah. I can see why. I'm the complete opposite. The
Okay,
I Remember You is one of my favorite standards. It's a really nice tune. But I was looking at the solos in particular. I think Cannonball has an amazing break yet again. He's really good at them. And the solo is just so typical of his style, which is nice. And then I kind of heard a bit of another standard referenced in his solo. So he references Yardbird Suite, which is a standard by Charlie Parker.
oh
And
I've
not
heard of him.
yeah,
Is he the one that got the symbol thrown at his head?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, by Joe
Yeah,
Jones.
he's mentioned in Whiplash, I
Oh
think.
my God,
I hope it's
I
him,
didn't know you'd
otherwise I'll
seen
sound like an
Whiplash.
idiot now.
No, yeah, it was. I hope it was. Otherwise, I'll sound like a bigger idiot. Um, yeah. So then, Cannonball is referencing Yardbird Suite not only his solo, but when he's trading fours. I think it's with the bass, with one of the Heath dudes, and he's trading forward, and he's referencing Yardbird Suite again, which I like. And Wynton Kelly himself on keys references the head or the main melody at the start of his solo, which I always enjoy. I think it's a nice kind of like self-awareness. And then we come on to the alternate takes of two of the
Right.
tunes.
Yes, we do.
Barefoot Sunday Blues, alternate take.
I have slightly left these out of my
Have you?
reviews of the songs, you know, where we put them in order,
Yeah.
because I didn't really get the point of them. They didn't sound that different.
Yeah. I think when you said this is music for musicians, I think this is
This
like
very much is
yeah.
music for
It's
musicians.
listening to the solos and then they've just recorded a shit ton of versions of these songs and then chosen
Yeah,
the best ones.
the ones that they liked the
But then
most.
the ones where they were kind of like really stuck between, they kind of
They
include
just
on
did
it.
both.
Yeah. So it's just the solos that are different. But I, for both of these, prefer the alternate take to the one that was like officially in the album, as it were.
Right.
I think the solos were better. I think they suited the tunes more. But we won't go into much detail on that because I'm looking at time as well. Shall we do the ranks?
You picked the album, so you go first with your ranking,
Yeah,
and then
I'm
I'll go.
going to include my alternate takes because
Okay.
I've included them anyway. So my favourite was I Remember You, but the alternate take. And then second was I Remember You, the proper version. Three was Poor Butterfly. Four, I guess I'll hang my tears out to dry. Five was Serenata. Six, Barefoot Sunday Blues, alternate take. 7, Barefoot Sunday Blues. 8, I've told every little star. And 9, If This Isn't Love.
We're almost inverse.
Are we actually?
So my number 1 is I've Told Every Little Star.
Yeah,
Then 2 is Serenata.
yeah,
Then 3 is Barefoot Sunday
yeah,
Blues. Then 4 is If This Isn't Love.
yeah,
Then I'll Hang My Tears Out to Dry.
yeah,
Then Poor Butterfly. Then I Remember You. And then I just put the alternate takes in the bottom. Like I
yeah,
didn't rate them.
yeah. Wow, that's really interesting, actually. Um, but yeah, there was a question you asked at the beginning that we haven't answered about
I did.
Herbie Hancock and Cannonball.
Yes.
I think we've kind of answered that. I think the jazz you're into, if you prefer this to Herbie Hancock, is very much the kind of same jazz that I'm into in the way that it is just standards. Herbie Hancock, in his album Headhunters, was absolutely trying to do something new for jazz. He was really trying to cut away from standards and not do what was expected of him. Whereas Cannonball here is literally just getting a group of amazing musicians together and just having a jam. Because all you do there is just call a standard, play it, solo over it, record it, done. Whereas Herbie Hancock's are much more they're much more planned, as it were, I think.
Yeah. I thought that it would be something like Herbie's being more experimental,
Yeah.
like something like that. Like I think that was similar to, I don't really know, like slightly similar to my issue with the ELO as well. Is that at the time it was very new
Hmm.
and they were being quite experimental. But my issue isn't just people trying new things, because I don't have an issue with people trying new things. I guess it just doesn't, in that case, didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think now of an example of an album that tried new things that I did like, and I
Well,
almost can't. I mean, the only thing I can think of is something that's really just doesn't even compare in a way to trying new things in the same way that Herbie Hancock did. Like, because I assume Headhunters and that kind of Herbie Hancock stuff, that was quite influential, right, on the genre.
yeah.
Yeah, well, the only thing I can think of where somebody tried something new and I enjoyed it is Panic at the
Oh
Disco's
God.
different albums. Like, that's literally it. Because I know that you don't love that kind of style of music, but I think one thing that just you can't really argue when it comes to Panic at the Disco is that every album is very different to all the
Yeah.
others. I don't know how well you know them,
If
but
I listened to Panic at the Disco, I'm sure I would agree.
yeah, every album is very different to the others, and I think a lot of people don't like, say, their newest album, not Pray for the Wicked, which comes out in like a couple of days, but
Oh my God.
Death of a Bachelor.
Yeah.
It was very different to the stuff that they'd done before, and it's because the band changes and everyone leaves until it's just Brendan. But
Hmm.
Pretty Odd is, a lot of people think it's the worst. I think it's the worst Panic album. It's called Pretty Odd, and it's actually my favourite. And it's kind of very Beatles-esque. It's quite inspired by
Yeah.
the sound of and the feel of the Beatles, which is obviously very different to the kind of
Yeah.
emo
I wouldn't.
alternative stuff that they did in their first album.
Hmm.
So that was something where they, every single album, it's almost a different genre. They try something else.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like certain albums because they just aren't into the feel of it. Like I don't like Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die because that's very kind of computerized album. It's got a lot of just synth on it, and I'm just not. It just doesn't. It seems quite bland to me.
Yeah.
But some of the others that are more acoustic and a bit more musically interesting.
Yeah. I can understand that. Yeah. Holy cow. Holy shit. Should we move on to the film?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Let's move on to the film.
Brain dead.
The film was, I think it's called Brain Dead here, and I think it was released as Dead Alive in North America.
Okay. Would
So it's got two titles, and it's directed by Peter Jackson, who is most well known for directing the Hobbit trilogy and the Lord of the Rings
yeah.
trilogy. It was made in 1992.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sometime
it's
around then.
it's daft. It truly is extremely daft.
Was it
There's
supposed to be
almost nothing
stupid?
else you could say. Yes. So
Okay,
the
good.
genre that it's in is known as splatstick,
Okay.
which is, it's like slapstick comedy, which was very kind of physical comedy,
Yeah.
kind of your Laurel and Hardy classic silent film comedy,
Hmm.
but instead of it being the physical, the like somebody turning and hitting someone with a ladder, it's gore based comedy in a way. So it's kind of riffing on that hammer horror, just fake blood. It's the kind of niche that's currently filled by films like not Sharknado really, but things
Saw, I
like
guess.
Piranha.
Oh,
Saw
right.
not so much because Saw takes itself quite seriously and is a horror film. But those films that are horror films, but they're kind of intentionally bad,
Yeah.
but not. This isn't. It's difficult. This isn't a bad film.
Yeah.
It's not a good film,
Yeah.
but it's not a
I'd
bad
agree with
film.
that.
It's the acting is over the top, but it's not bad. The
Yeah.
acting isn't bad. The portraying the characters they're trying to portray very well. It's just the
Hmm.
characters they're portraying are all ridiculous and over the top.
Yeah.
The special effects in it, they don't look real, but technically they are quite impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
I mean,
understand.
the plot is nothing. It's just, there is no plot. It's an excuse. But
Yeah. Holy crap. I hated it. I hated every second of it.
everything about it is very intentional, and it is. I didn't think you'd like it,
Hmm.
but I don't know. It's not a genre I know super well. I don't know any other films in it, but this film, it's very much either you love it or you hate it, and I do kind of love it.
Oh
It's
God.
just so ridiculous. So I don't know. It starts off on Skull Island, which I don't know if you know Skull Island. I don't know how well you know
I don't know
your creature films,
Skull
but
Island
Skull
at all.
Island is King Kong's island.
Yeah, there was another point in the film where I was like, "Holy shit!" It kind of feels like King Kong. But we'll get to that later. I'll point it
Yeah,
out when we get
so
to it.
Skull Island is the island where King Kong is from, and Peter Jackson just put that in as a bit of a homage to King Kong. He was like, "It's Skull Island, sure," because he's a
Sure.
big fan of this kind of genre. Obviously, he made this film, so he'd have to be.
Yeah.
And then, interestingly, a bit of trivia: Peter Jackson directed a King Kong film
Did he?
later on after this. Yeah, I think 2003 or something.
Holy
And in
shit.
his King Kong film, there's a boat coming from Skull Island, and it's got a box on it that says Sumatran rat monkey, beware of the
Really?
bite, which is just pretty funny.
That's yeah, I like that. That's pretty cool actually.
Um, I think that the opening to this film, it is you can watch up till that title card, and if you enjoy that, you'll love the film, and if you don't enjoy that, you'll hate
Yeah.
the film. That intro is the whole film. Really,
I was
it's just that.
just so confused. I couldn't tell whether it was supposed to be stupid or whether it was supposed to be bad. And it felt like a scary movie. You know, it felt like
Yeah,
it was kind of like a knockoff Indiana Jones when he's kind of running
yeah.
away. So
Yeah, so it was riffing on that type of film.
yeah.
Definitely, yeah. It definitely was supposed to kind of take the mick out of Indiana Jones. I mean, that guy on the island who gets all his limbs chopped off,
Mm.
he even looks like a little bit like Marcus Brody from Indiana
Yeah,
Jones.
yeah.
I think it is very intentionally kind of that them running to the jeep, escaping from all the tribespeople, is very reminiscent of that scene at the start
Yeah.
of, I think it's Raiders, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's quite intentional. Um, just all the way through it is kind of poking at films, but not in such an overt way as films like Spaceballs do, where
Mm.
it's very much a parody of a particular film. This was just kind of riffing, riffing on those common tropes, but it almost feels a bit generous to
Yeah.
say that it's doing it in a parody way because it almost is too bad
Yeah.
to
Oh
be that.
God. I watched it this morning. I kind of got up and I was like, right, I'll watch the film now. So I was awake for like 15 minutes before I started watching
Yeah.
it. My God. I was going to eat breakfast to it. And then I kind of
Oh God, no.
saw where at the zoo where she gets bitten. I was like, right, this isn't a film to be eating breakfast.
No, definitely not.
Um,
But
yeah, it was the amount of blood and gore and
yeah,
and special effects and stuff like that in it was just whoa. There was so
it's
much.
ludicrous.
How much that could have cost like so much money.
I think it had like a $3 million budget. I don't.
So it's all spent on gore.
Yeah.
Those poor actors.
Let me see if I can find the budget. Hold on.
I hope it wasn't
Yeah,
that.
budget estimated 3 million.
Serious.
Gross USA profit 242,000.
Oh my days! It just failed. Was this Peter Jackson's first film?
I don't think it was his first, but it was definitely early.
Okay,
Let me see.
that makes sense.
You know, it won awards though,
No.
like indie awards. But yeah,
What? No.
and I'm sure some of them are like daft horror movie
Yeah,
awards.
yeah.
It won the Saturn Award for the best genre video release, and it was a nominee for best horror film and best special effects.
What?
It won the 1993 Amsterdam Fantastic Film Festival. It won the Fangor. It was a nominee for the Chainsaw Awards for best supporting actor and best supporting
You're
actress.
joking. They were awful. They were
It won
so
it won the
bad.
Fanta Festival best actor for the guy who played Lionel.
Oh, God. I do feel sorry for them. Especially
Best male
Lionel.
dramatic performance for Lionel. New Zealand Film and TV Awards.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Lionel got some steak. Like he must have. I hope he was paid quite a lot because I would not be paid minimum wage just to be covered in all that shit day in, day out.
yeah.
Because he was,
It must have been a slog to film. It really must.
and they can't have done that lawnmowers. They must have done it once. They can't have done it any more times
Oh,
than
they would
that.
have been. There's no way they'd have been able to afford to reach to do that more than once. Yeah.
That's
Do you know
crazy.
the blood was being pumped through that lawnmower at 5 gallons a second?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's so much. 5 gallons is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
300 liters of fake blood was used in the final scene of the film. In a way, you almost can't discuss it because there's nothing to discuss.
Yeah.
It was just so daft. It's not a film that you can
I
analyze
was just
or
laughing
talk
at
about the
it
meanings
all
behind
the way through.
or anything like that.
Yeah. There's no metaphors or
No,
symbolism. There's just
it is just unabashed. It doesn't. It's not pretending not to be a gore fest.
yeah,
That is all
yeah.
it is. I mean, that scene, the scene where she is after she's been bitten, and the people from the WLWL come over for dinner,
Oh God, I couldn't stand it.
and they're eating the custard,
Oh.
and she like squirts goo into the guy's custard, and he's like, "It's delicious," and then her ear falls in her custard, and she eats it. It genuinely makes me gag. Like
Yeah,
every time I've
yeah,
watched this film like 6 times probably. It makes me gag every time.
yeah. I was
Apparently, I
yeah.
read online that the rental version in I can't remember where, but in like there was a store that for the rentals would
Mm.
give away like vomit bags with it.
Oh my God.
If you rented it, you got a free sick bag. That's pretty funny.
Holy shit. I was surprised I didn't throw up. And
In Sweden,
the the effects. It was all like kind of it was like viscous goo stuff and it
it was
looked
so
it looked
thick.
disgusting and the sound effects to match it were just so I hated it.
It really is unpleasant.
Like I struggled watching it. It was a big struggle.
The first time I watched it, I was watching it with George Hewlin,
Oh God.
and we were on Skype together watching it, and we were both just in awe at every single scene. You're like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
There's a scene halfway through which really comes out of nowhere, where his mum's been buried. The mum's the main zombie, and
Mm,
she's been buried, and he's kind of digging her up so that he could keep the corpse in his house, like the zombie in the house,
mm.
um, so that it can't attack anyone.
If you
And these four blokes come up to him and are like, "Oi,
yeah.
they're like beatniks. They're like Grease style T-bird
Yeah.
beatniks. It's very strange." But they come up to him and they're like, "Oh, he's digging up his mum's corpse. He's horrible."
Yeah.
And then the mum like bites one and then gets the others so that they're all zombies. And the priest of the church comes out and is like, "Hold on a minute, lads. This calls for divine
Yeah.
intervention. I kick ass for the Lord." And it's like 10 minutes long, like a kung fu scene of the
Yeah,
priest just
just
kung
beating
fu
shit up.
karateing all of the beatnik
Yeah,
zombies, and he ends up dying at the end of the scene because he kicks a zombie's head off, and it flies in the air and lands on his shoulder and bites him, and then throws him onto a grave,
it's
which stabs him through the
ridiculous.
stomach,
It is
and it's
just
just so daft.
ridiculous.
And then the priest zombie later has sex with the nurse zombie, and they have a little zombie baby.
That fucking zombie baby, that made me. I hated it. I hated every second of that little thing's life.
And there's a whole like,
It's like
why
a.
does he take it to the park? He
Yeah,
takes the
I
zombie
don't
baby to the park
understand.
in a pram, and it escapes. And there's a scene with classical music playing the whole time of him chasing the
Yeah,
zombie baby around the park as it gets into zany antics.
yeah.
It's just, what is this film?
I just don't understand why he was keeping them all in his basement when he could have just killed them. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous.
It's hilarious. I love every second of it.
Oh, it annoyed me. It annoyed me, especially that bloody zombie baby. It would like
And
had
it
its.
giggled.
Yeah, it just didn't stop. It was like its own little subplot running around, just destroying its own little shit. And whether it saw anything fucked up, it was like, oh, that's something to laugh at.
When it bursts through that lady's head, it
Yeah,
like rips her head open from inside.
it's
It's
just.
like, yeah.
I think if people haven't watched the film and are listening to us discuss it, they may be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
You gotta just go watch it because it really is.
It's something
It's
else.
something else. It's something else. It's definitely an experience. Don't eat while you're watching it.
Yeah, just make sure you haven't
Um,
eaten within three hours, and you don't
and
plan
just
to
know
eat
that
2 hours after it.
yeah, it's very tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
It's very, everything is intentional, I think.
yeah, but holy shit, £3 million. They can't have paid the actors that much. If I was Lionel,
Yeah, I
I'd be
know.
asking for a fucking wage rise.
Oh, and the fact that his like one-liner as he opened the door with the lawnmower at the end was "This party's over,"
Yeah,
or "This." It made me laugh so much. I could just imagine Mace Windu going, "This party's over,"
why Mace Windu? What the hell?
because he says it,
Does he?
doesn't he?
Mace Windu?
I'm sure he says
Samuel
that.
L. Jackson?
Yeah,
In what? What Star
in
Wars
Star
films have
Wars,
you been
obviously.
watching?
He says it. Yeah, he does. He says it when on Geonosis in episode 2 when he goes up and confronts Count Dooku at the just before all the Jedi jump into the wrestling ring.
Whoa. Holy shit.
He like puts a lightsaber to Jango Fett's head, and it's
Yeah.
like, "This party's over."
I imagined it as they were going to arrest Palpatine and he had his little crew of like Kit Fisto and stuff. He watched it, it's like, this party's over. Oh god,
Oh,
Tom's dead.
excuse me.
Yeah, there was a bit, like that whole last kind of scene, there was like no dialogue for half an hour. There was like no one spoke. It
Yeah,
was just screams and noises and blood. And then for like the last 15 minutes there was some dialogue. And it just felt so strange. I don't put here, there's been no dialogue for like 30 minutes. When it comes back, it's shit. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh man. Yeah, I
I
think
can't believe it got like nominations and stuff for best screenplay.
it I
Like, what were films in 1993? What were they?
what else was released in 1993?
Oh, God knows. Obviously crap.
Yeah, yeah, all really underachieving stuff. What did you give it, by the way? Like out of 10? Jurassic Park was released in 1993,
Oh my
and
God.
Schindler's List, and this beat it. Oh, okay, I give up.
I feel like these weren't. I don't think it was quite the same award ceremonies
No.
that things like Schindler's List and Jurassic Park would have been at.
Imagine if John
That's
Williams
pretty
had,
cool though that Jurassic Park was the same year, because if you compare the special effects in this and the special effects in Jurassic Park,
yeah,
Jurassic Park is miles ahead.
yeah, but it was a micro budget,
Obviously, yeah, obviously, Jurassic Park was a
a massive film.
multi-million-dollar blockbuster that had Spielberg and that whole crew behind it, whereas this was a very domestic New Zealand Peter Jackson
paid for by the tourism board
Yeah,
film. You know what's weird though? The fact that kind of Peter Jackson and Steven Spielberg are kind of they're about of equal notoriety now.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Spielberg's in a slightly different league to
No,
Peter
I think
Jackson. I mean, Peter Jackson's only done Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
yeah, I suppose actually. Okay.
You know, that's it's one thing really, and the Hobbit films aren't really that good.
I've never seen them. Maybe watch them some other time. What did you give it out of 10, by the way?
Um, like a seven. I don't know. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult because I can't. It's not a good film. I can't call it a good film, so I can't give it a high up score.
Hmm.
But I do really enjoy watching it.
Hmm.
So it's tricky to rate because I can't give it like a nine because obviously it's not a nine film.
Yeah.
It's just not even close to being a film that's up there. But I do enjoy watching it an awful lot.
Holy shit. I'd give it a 0. I'll give it a 1. I
Really, you'd
hated
give it a
every
one.
second of it.
That's our first
First 1.
minimum score.
Yeah. 1. Oh wow. So
Did you not laugh once?
no, I was too busy trying not to
You didn't even
throw up.
you didn't even laugh at I kick ass for the
No.
Lord.
I was, I
On
was,
its
oh, I was just so confused. I kind of like, I must have had my mouth open for at least 2/3 of that film, whether I was trying to throw up or whether I was just shocked.
in its initial release in its home turf of New Zealand, this movie earned more per screen than Batman
You're
Returns.
joking. What is life?
What is New Zealand?
What a
I really want to
country.
live there.
Oh, holy crap.
That's crazy. So for next week, then, um,
It's your album.
it's my album and it's your film.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I genuinely don't know what you're going to think of this album.
Oh,
I think you could like it.
you've been surprised in the past.
I was surprised that you liked Old Man Markley. I didn't think you would. So this one, I'm not sure. This is a rock album,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know how you feel about rock. This is going to be The Strange Case of by Hailstorm.
The name is The Strange Case of.
Yeah, or just Strange Case of maybe. Hold on, let me check.
Okay. I think I've heard of this band.
I've talked about Hailstorm a lot. I'm a big fan of Hailstorm. The Strange Case of, and then an ellipses is the name of the
Oh,
title.
we listened to the deluxe version.
We'll just do the normal one.
Okay.
I do like some of the songs in the deluxe, but
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I've got it. Holy crap. That looks really scary. The album cover looks really scary.
I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite albums. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. The film I'm choosing is a comedy film featuring Ryan Gosling and someone else famous that I've forgotten the name of but can picture in my head. I think you might have seen it, but we'll watch it again anyway because I want to watch it again. It's called The Nice Guys.
Oh, I've not seen this.
It is on Netflix. I did check.
I've heard a lot of talk about it on Reddit. I'm
Really?
quite excited.
A lot of has it what? Has it been slated on
Just
Reddit?
people, just people like sometimes I think there are gifs of it occasionally
Mm.
put up, and then in the comments people are always like, "Oh man, I love this film."
I do like the film a lot.
Oh, I'm quite excited.
Holy crap.
The Nice Guys.
Yeah.
So for next week, we're gonna listen to The Strange Case of by Hailstorm,
Yep.
and we're gonna watch The Nice Guys.
Yeah. Perfect.
All of you listening to this are gonna right now
Review.
go to podchaser.com and leave this episode a 5-star review,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna give our podcast a review on iTunes. Thank you for doing that. Now, very
Right
helpful.
this second.
So, thanks for listening to Word on a String. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook at WAS Podcast, and also on iTunes.
World on a String is hosted by James Curgenven and Tom Joshi-Cale, and you can find me on Twitter at James Curgenven.
And you can find me at AceTorterra1. All music on the show is original music by James Curgenven.